Yes, my people. Welcome to your sneaker history and lifestyle podcast, Kicks Chronicles. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us one more time. Once again, I'm your boy PROZECH, and you are most certainly very, very welcome, my people. We're back again with another amazing podcast, even if I do say so myself. Firstly, I want to thank everybody that managed to check out our most recent podcast. Yeah, man like Sosa did his thing. So if you haven't managed to go check that out, plus all of our older episodes, feel free to go do that. They're available on every digital podcasting platform. Stuck in the cloud. We're stuck in the cloud and we ain't going nowhere. so you just need to go and touch up the cloud and go pick it up, bro. It's available. Now, this week, right, we ain't playing no games. We're getting straight into the interview because I ain't gonna lie, this one I'm excited about. This one I'm very, very excited about. Now, you know, at Kids Chronicles, our focus is, and it always will be, connections to the culture. We look to see those people that are part of the culture, that feed into the culture, that support the culture. That's what we're all about. It's not about how deep and big your collection is. It's about how deep your connection is to the culture. There's another thing that I pride myself on when it comes to this podcast. And it's about sharing our platform and collaborating with other podcasters, other content creators that are doing great work within the culture and shining a light on their amazing talent. Now, in that vein, this week our guest is one half of the amazing Doubled Up podcast, Matt Sibley. Now, if you don't know about the Doubled Up podcast, what you been doing, fam? What you been doing with your life, bro? You need to come outside, bro, because people are out here listening to content. Matt and Scott, two halves combined, Doubled Up podcast, basically a sneaker podcast where these men just vibe and chat, shoot the breeze, while delivering, in my opinion, one of the best sneaker podcasts to come out of the UK. And Matt in particular, bro, this guy is an absolute professional. He's always got a story, always got a rant in his back pocket, and his banter is elite. So I really, really enjoyed having a chat with him. You know what we do here, man. We had to delve into his sneaker history. So we went all the way back to what drew him to the game, his love for the Air Max Plus. And that's for my American listeners. We're talking about the good old TN. He loves off a TN. The Air Max 1s as well. He loves off the Air Max 1s. And also the humble Primark Plimsoll. Bro, he had them in every color, and I'm not talking out of school. My man was going deep. He had every colorway. Alright, man. And then also we bring it all the way back to the modern day, find out what's in his current rotation. We also talk about the unlikely story that brought him and Scott together, and the shoe that kind of cemented their relationship and kind of caused them to forge this new venture, which is now turned into the Doubled Up podcast. Matt also gives us some real good insight into the podcasting landscape within the sneaker space, his advice to budding podcasters as well, plus his thoughts on fakes, plus women's only drops. If you don't stick around for anything, that piece that me and him did on women's only drops, yeah, you need to hear about that. You need to stick around for that because that was inside. And that was really, really insightful because it's something that I've been thinking about. And it's a question that I posed to him and he actually answered on the Doubled Up podcast, but I needed to get my version. I needed to hear from the horse's mouth directly. And he did not disappoint when it came to dropping bars on that particularly hot topic, in my opinion. Women's only drops in 2023. Should that still be a thing? You get me? In woke culture, in the pronouns culture, women's only drops. Does that seem fair? Seems a little discriminatory, if I'm being honest. And it seems like Nike is the only one doing it. And maybe I'm the only one that's clocked it, but maybe we need to do something about that, Nike. So yeah, we have a little chat about that. All in all, Matt Sibley, an amazing guest, an amazing guy, and a guy that I hope to one day have back on the podcast without a shadow of a doubt. You will hear during the podcast, like, Scott is in the works, 100%. That's already in the books. That's on the agenda. That's happening because I don't play around when it comes to to getting this content. You get me? I'm organized. That being said, I'd love to have both of these man on the podcast at the same time. You get me? So we can banter it up, because I think that would be absolutely amazing. So yes, I really enjoyed this podcast. It was an amazing opportunity for me to speak to somebody that's been in the game a little bit longer than me. All I can do is glean from the advice and glean from the information and the gems that they're dropping down. You get me? So an amazing interview in my opinion. I really enjoyed it. One that I hope you find interesting and entertaining. And with all of that being said, I'm your boy PROZECH. This is Kicks Chronicles, and our guest this week is the bombastic
side eye, criminal offense.
I'm joking. That is the amazing Matt Sibly from the Doubled Up podcast. Enjoy. Boom. Yes, my people. Big PROZECH back again, and you already know what it is, man. Sneakers, kicks, and creps. Today, I am here with the man, the myth, the legend, one half of the Doubled Up podcast. Mr. Matt Sibley is in the building. What's kicking, my boy?
Honestly, mate, thank you so much for inviting us. It still feels weird, like being on someone else's show. Like, we've done now a couple of podcasts and a couple of like little YouTube bits here and there, but after doing the podcast for so long, like just me and like my co-host Scott, like it feels weird still to be on someone else's platform. But no, I'm super excited for this.
No, I'm like over the moon to have you, man. And shout out to Scott as well, man. I love your podcast. I'm a big fan of what you guys do. Thank God he managed to find his way out of the Scottish Highlands, bro. Like, I'm saying, like, thank God, like, oh my days, we could have lost him.
Honestly, I had the search parties ready, the whole lot. Like, the police were there on speed dial.
I was saying the search party was knocking. Good stuff, man. He's a strong lad, so I didn't doubt him for a second. So, you know how it goes here, bro. Like at Kicks Chronicles, it's all about your journey, it's all about your history, and finding out sort of what drew you to the game. So let's start there, bro. What was your first love? What was that shoe that said to you, you know what, you gotta have me? Yeah. What tugged on the heartstrings on that?
There's not like a single shoe that was like, this is the thing that got me into it, right? Like, I think for me, and it's almost like a little bit predictable sometimes, where like I feel like for me, shoes have always mattered to a certain degree. Now, I haven't always had a collection. That came like later on, and it wasn't necessarily a shoe that sparked the collection, but it was more like a bit of nostalgia and more of like an event. So some of my earliest sneaker memories are like school, secondary school, college, and it's weird. There's almost like periods of time where it fluctuates. So I always say, like, I remember being a kid and coming downstairs and like walking into the living room and seeing my dad cleaning all of his Adidas Superstars. Like, my dad loves Superstars, and he had an obsession where if he saw a different colored Superstar, he had to buy it. Like, it didn't matter where we were, it didn't matter how many pairs he'd bought. Like, if he saw a different colored Superstar, like it was always like either all black or all white with the different colored stripes. And I remember like coming downstairs and seeing him like cleaning, like he had purple stripes, blue stripes, green stripes, red stripes, yellow stripes, like everything. And I was
Are you serious?
And I was like, that's pretty cool. Like, as a kid,
that is very cool.
Like, I thought that's amazing. Like, having all of these like iconic shoes. So that was something like kind of stuck with me very, very young. And then as you kind of grow up and as trends change and things like this, like you're always constantly chasing the next shoe. So like, I remember very, very early doors, being like big into Air Maxes and things like this. Like when I was in secondary school, like TNs were huge, and then that eventually kind of changed into maybe Reebok Classics, and then as I kind of got a little bit older, that changed into Air Max 1s and Air Max 95s. And as
this guy's singing from my hymn sheet, bro.
But
you are singing my song.
I'm glad. It's not like there was ever a collection, because the thing for me is like my mum and dad split up when I was very, very young, and my mum was always like the stay-at-home mum. So when my dad's when they split up, it was a lot for like my mum to be providing shoes for me and my brother. So, I mean, everyone's got a similar kind of story, really, haven't they? Like most people, you don't have a lot of money growing up, so therefore shoes are very limited. So we would like search sale racks and things like this. So it was always like, right, what's the next trend? I remember being really, really young and it being TNs. Right, okay, I can't afford full price pair of TNs. So I remember buying a pair of white and blue TNs off my mate that we used for 30 quid. And they were like, I wore them everywhere. And then I remember we went, bro. Yeah, and we went on
ahead of the game.
We went in a school trip to Cologne. And I remember me and a load of mates, we went to Foot Locker, where I used to grow up. Like I live in London now, but I kind of grew up in Hampshire. And we basically had like a JD Sports and that was it. So not a lot of options. And like first time me walking into a Foot Locker, me and my mates all bought different coloured TNs. And like I remember there was 6 or 7 of us, I think, and there was like only 5 or 6 colorways. And it was back in the day where you could not wear the same shoe as your mate. Like you would be crucified, bullied, like you could not show your face if you were wearing the same shoe as a mate of yours.
It was over. Yeah.
Honestly, you couldn't like it was like all of us, our little group of mates would like, you can't buy that jacket, you can't buy that pair of shoes, I've already Bagsied that, like. And I remember there was one too many of us. Yeah,
Bagsy. Oh, Bagsy was the law.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, like you live and die by Bagsy.
Oh, you live and die by Bagsy,
oh, 100%.
Man. If you're
like
Bagsy and things, man. No, 100%, man. It's off the table.
Yeah, Bagsy was a stricter rule than the actual law. Then, like 100%. Yeah,
100%. Any law derived from the country was fair game.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
But Bagsy was no. Yeah, Bagsy got dealt with by social justice. We had to handle
100%. But I remember we went into this Foot Locker and there was like basically one too many of us for the amount of shoes there were, like the amount of colorways. So me and a mate had to get the same colorway and I had to buy a different pair of laces. Like it was a black and white pair of TN. So I bought a pair of black and white laces just so that mine could look different to his. And it's silly things like that, like growing up, that you kind of go to the next, once TNs weren't as cool in my school, it was then on to the 95s. And I remember we all were trying to get the best colorway of 95s, but again, none of us could afford it. So I remember buying like knockoff market Air Max 95s. I had a pair of black and gold market 95s that were 100% weren't real because the Air Max logo was in a square rather than a circle.
Love that.
But it's just like you do anything you can to like have the coolest pair of shoes that you possibly can in school. And it's kind of been like that forever, right? Like there's not been one particular shoe that really got me into it. But I suppose going back to like the collecting side of things, I remember the one thing my mum always did amazing with when we were growing up was holidays. Like we didn't have a lot of stuff in the house, but every single year she took us on a holiday. It was really, really important to her, and it still is her. Like in her older years, like she still every single year will go on a really nice holiday. And I remember as I started getting older and earning a little bit of money, this was probably about 2017, 2018. I booked a trip for me and my girlfriend to go to Florida. I was working at this company, started earning a little bit of money, and I got a yearly bonus that I didn't realize how big the bonus was. And basically it was enough to like pay for us to go to Florida. And it was something I'd promised my girlfriend since we first got together. There's a bit of a backstory. I won't go too much into it, but basically I promised that I'd like take her to Florida one day. So I got this bonus and paid for the trip. And it got me thinking, like my mum used to take us when we were kids. And I remember, again, back in that day where you had to have a shoe that was different to all your mates, going to Florida or going to America was a cheat code because you could go out there and buy shoes 100. That no one else saw. So
yeah, buddy.
I was like, I booked this trip and I was like, I wonder if I can get any cool shoes out there. Like, I used to get so many cool shoes when I was in America. And that's like sparked it. I'm the type of person that as soon as I think of something, I get obsessed, like locked on. And all I could think about was this upcoming trip that was booked for a year and a half's time. And all I was thinking of is, I wonder what cool trainers I'm going to see there. I wonder what cool trainers I'm going to see there. And that's kind of sparked the collection. It wasn't like one shoe. The only problem was I had no idea what I was doing then. Like, honestly, I was an idiot. I like downloaded the Sneakers app, downloaded like the End app. And I was just, all I was doing is entering raffles on End and Sneakers and taking unlimited L's, that it took me so long to even build up a collection, because all I was doing, I was just trying to buy the hypest shoes and I couldn't get anything. now my sneaker taste has changed, and actually I'm so far from hype. Like, it's so funny for me to think back, because I spent a good few years just taking constant L's from End and sneakers. I would go onto Instagram and all I would see is Offspring raffles popped up. This raffle is closed. When did it open? When did it open? So I had no idea.
I thought it was just me. I thought it was just me.
No, honestly, I had no idea about putting the notifications on. I knew no one in the community. So it took me a good couple of years before I started actually understanding my own sneaker taste, and that really kind of started developing the collection.
No, man, I love that, man. I think sort of like that little sort of like, I'm sure it's been you've condensed it. You've given us the sort of like Reader's Digest version of it, but like just understanding sort of from when you were young, the journey all the way up to now. And I like so much of your story is similar to mine in the sense that growing up, like shoes were definitely not a priority in my household, but my mom like prioritized taking me back home to Africa and making sure that I was close to my family that weren't close in proximity. But like just having that want and that desire for kicks, and just like that whole thing about like, bro, if any of my boys wore the same kicks as me, it was on sight.
You couldn't.
It was on. There was no way. There was no way. So that I resonate with that massively. And yeah, man. And then that kickstart. Once again, sort of other things come into life and different priorities, and you're focusing on different things, and then all of a sudden, the holiday just sparks up the thing again, and it's you know what, man, this thing that was always within me, and I suppose it was just lying dormant for a period of time. Now it's up and it's firing and stuff, and it's hilarious. When you talk about the End app and the sneakers app, I can't think of two more deadly. These are the snipers of all apps, man. These are the Navy SEALs of apps. Just 100% kill rate.
Honestly,
for everybody.
I just
like
had no
equal
idea.
Opportunity.
Honestly, but you when you're not like in the community, when you're not like in the bubble, you just don't understand. And obviously, anyone listening to this, if you're listening to a sneaker podcast, like you're already in the bubble. But I'm sure everyone can probably relate to the fact that like the first time you entered a raffle and you thought, well, hang on a minute, this is a really weird concept. Like, why do I have to participate in a game to buy a pair of shoes? But then obviously it's such the norm to us. Like back then, I was just every week waking up, what's on the sneakers app this week? That looks cool. It's a pair of Jordans. I'll try. Like you enter inevitable L, and then it's like it's just one after another after another after another. And then, like I said, it wasn't until really a good amount of time, it was almost from like 2018 almost to 2020, where all of a sudden I started understanding a little bit more about who, like what I liked and the kind of product that really resonated with me. And then that completely changed, and all of a sudden it was like overnight, boom, like shoe cut, like box at the door, box at the door, and all of a sudden it like expanded overnight.
No, I love that. You mentioned earlier about growing up. I think you mentioned growing up in Hampstead. Was that right?
It was Hampshire, yeah. So I used to live in Basingstoke, which is kind of like, Reading way, I guess.
Okay. When you were growing up, if you can cast your mind back to when you were growing up, what were you seeing on people's feet? What was the shoe that sort of represented your childhood in a sense when you were walking on the street, and what was popular in the area? So, like, what are you seeing when you look in your mind's eye?
If I'm thinking like around school, which like at that age is probably where the majority of like you see all these things, it was lots of Air Maxes, but what you would see was very much with whatever was on trend at that time, right? So like, if we think when I was in secondary school, early secondary school, so when I was in like year 7, year 8, so this was maybe like 2011, 2012, something like that, maybe even 2013, everyone was loving, hang on a minute. No, that definitely isn't right. That definitely isn't right. My maths is way off. I'm thinking of like colleges. Even earlier than that, we're thinking like mid-2000s anyways, mid-2000s. It was like TNs for a good few years. Then the TNs kind of died off a little bit. Then it was 95s. Then that died off a little bit. It was funny, like I was listening to your episode with Alex Mullins, who was a previous guest of our podcast, and you guys were talking about like the Plimsolls and things like this. Honestly, I couldn't stop laughing throughout the episode because I definitely went through like the Gola Plimsoll phase and things like this. Like, bro, I went through the skinny jeans, cardigan, like moppy haircut, Arctic Monkeys phase. So I know I'm not giving you a straight answer.
Shout out to the Arctic
mate.
Monkeys.
I'm going to Glastonbury this year. I cannot wait to see Arctic Monkeys at Glastonbury this year. Honestly, I'm buzzing for that.
They do their thing, man. Definitely. The skinny jeans and the Plimsoll, man. I had the Primark classics on. Do you know, there were so many versions of Plimsolls at a point. Because even like, shout out to Alex as well, Sneak Supply of the building, man. We love all of that. But like, there was, I remember Flossies. I remember the Primark ones.
Yep.
I remember a company, I want to say they were called Dax, but I can't remember exactly. But I saw, like, literally, my life for probably about a six month period was just trying to differentiate between these different Plimsolls that were all varying between sort of £5 and £15 each.
Yeah, that's the
just
thing.
Trying to understand which one is the quality one and which one is the rubbish.
Mate, I was back in those days. I was such a Top Man fanboy. Like, I was the kid that was like super skin tight skinny jeans, whatever Plimsoll's Top Man was selling, the 2 for £10 t-shirts, the cardigan, like the moppy hair, like the fluorescent belt. Like, it was a bad time. Looking back on it, it was a bad time. It was a bad time when you look back on it. But
absolute rascal.
Yeah, honestly, it was a bad time. Like the dodgy earrings as well, like all sorts. But I suppose really the big theme that's been the whole way through, when I was like really being in Basingstoke, the big thing was Nike. Like, that's what you were seeing. You were seeing different iterations of Nike shoes, just different periods, whether it's TNs, 95s, Air Max 1s. At one stage, a lot of people were rocking the SB Janoskis as well. Like that, when I was in college, the Janoskis, like at the same time as like the Vans, got really, really big. So that was really it. Like, it varied, but it was mostly Nike shoes.
I respect that. And you did allude to this earlier, but it's a question that I absolutely love because I had to go through it. And just hearing people's stories of how they had to go through it is also quite fun and endearing, in my opinion. So yes, I have a line of question I refer to as the unholy grails.
Oh, right, okay.
You can kind of maybe infer where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
But there are a number of shoes that I had to wear growing up that I refer to as character building shoes. Shoes that I didn't want to wear, but I kind of had to wear because needs must. As you said earlier, mum's priorities were on different things. So you have to wear this particular type of shoe. It may not have all the right words on it. It may not be spelt in the right way. And there was others that were just complete brazen fakes. We'll go through a little bit of a list. We've mentioned Plimsolls, but there was Golas and the Air and the Ball Boys, High Techs, Dunlops and the Mercuries, Avias, Ascots. Any of those ring any bells? Did you ever have to sort of travel that road?
So for me, the Plimsolls was definitely one, but it wasn't like you were forced to wear Plimsolls. Like I said, for me, there was just a time in life where Plimsolls were cool.
That was
like,
what you wanted.
People
I
might not want to admit it, but there was a time in life where Plimsolls, like at least in my area, Plimsolls were the thing. So that was the thing that I stupidly chose to wear, but at the time it wasn't stupid. The big, I suppose, not really. That, like a lot of those, I never really got big into like the Gola, never really the high techs, things like this. What my mum was really, really good at was sale shopping, though. So that's the thing. Like a lot of the stuff that I would get would be semi-cool, but kind of like the stuff that's maybe a dodgy color because of the fact that it's in the sale. Like, so I always had like a lot of those shoes. I didn't actually have to go through, but I have worn like plenty of fakes. I suppose if you want to talk about the unholy grail, like nowadays, if you're caught wearing fakes, it's over. Like I knew every day going to school that I was wearing fake Air Max because that's all my mum could afford for a while. So that's unholy in itself, I guess.
Do you know what, man? And it is what it is. I think we can touch on this a little bit now because the whole fake thing is I wouldn't say it's like a massive issue, but it's obviously a bone of contention and one that is mentioned quite a lot in these types of circumstances, because ultimately nowadays what you have is you've got fakes, which are like pure fakes, which are just complete knockoffs, and then you've got the unauthorized authentics or unauthorized reps, and there's like a whole community of quote unquote sneaker lovers that only buy reps. So what are your thoughts on that?
it's difficult, right? Because I can appreciate, I suppose it depends on why someone's buying it, right? For me now, in my current time, there's never a shoe that I love enough that would ever make me want to buy fakes, right? Like, I'm not into a lot of like the big Travis Scotts and the Sean Wotherspoons and things like that. If you think, as soon as I think fakes in 2023, instantly in my head, I'm thinking Travis Scott ones. I'm thinking Sean Wotherspoon 97 ones. I'm thinking maybe something like a rare Air Max one. There's never any like shoes for me that I would ever have the need and desire to be like, okay, I can't physically afford the real thing, so I'm going down the route of fakes. Yeah, I just don't, I personally don't get it. Like I don't understand why someone does do it, but again, I suppose it depends on the reason. If someone physically can't afford anything other than fakes, but that being said, like fakes are still retail price. Like you're still going to spend £100+ for
they
a
cost
fake.
money. They cost money, bro.
Yeah.
No one's giving fakes away for free.
No.
And it's not like I'm saying it's not like you buy one and get one free, bro. There's no real incentive to wear a fake other than you're trying to stunt on people.
Yeah.
And this is the thing.
I don't like that.
Like, I like one of my dreams as a podcast host is to have a guest that has a full collection of reps. I just want to have that. I just want to have that conversation. And the thing is, not from a place of hatred, and definitely not from a place of sort of like making fun or anything like that. I just want to understand the mindset.
No, of course. Yeah.
I just want to understand the thought process, because ultimately you obviously like the design, because a lot of us will say that for the shoes that we like, we either like the design, we like the materials, we like the comfort, we like the technology. There are elements of the design, there are elements of the engineering process and the putting together of the shoe that we identify with, and that's what's drawn us in. Or it's the story, the marketing, blah blah blah, the history, right? If you're drawn in by the history and you're drawn in by all of these different elements, but yet you don't want to go the extra mile to actually purchase the shoe legitimately, right? That I can't connect the two, because if you're spending £120 on a fake Travis, right? Surely there's less of that feeling of achievement, because that's part of it as well.
The satisfaction isn't there.
That satisfaction it's got to be lacking, and I suppose you can tell yourself, and this is the reason why I want to have the conversation. You can tell yourself, well, these lot are a bunch of dummies, because they're spending £2,000 or whatever on a Travis.
Yeah.
That was retailing for £150 or whatever it was. I can wear the same shoe and I can look fly and blah, blah, blah. But then, like you were saying earlier, it's not going to be an Air Force One that's a fake shoe. It's going to be these ostentatious, very high heat, very hyped shoes. And a lot of times, if I'm walking on the street and I see someone in a Red October, or I see somebody...
You question it instantly. Yeah.
I'm gonna question it, bro. 100%. Like I'm saying this, so everybody's tarred with a terrible brush because of the fact that there's such a fake culture going on.
Yeah.
But I just love to have the conversation, man.
No, I think it would be interesting, because the mindset's going to be totally different, right? Like for a lot of people that are willing to buy fakes, I think probably they don't. You were saying there about like history and things like this, the design, all of that aspect. I don't think someone that is wearing a fake pair of Travis Scott 1 highs probably cares about the fact that, it's one of the, like, it's what Travis was given the freedom to do the reverse swoosh and blah blah blah. Like people are just looking at it as probably more of a fashion mindset than it is a sneaker mindset, right? Like we are.
Do you know what? It's that fast fashion.
Exactly. Like people want to be able to walk down the street and they might feel really confident wearing it. You never know. Like someone might put that shoe on and be like, my outfit looks great, and that's giving me a confidence. And that might be why they buy these fakes, because they know that they're going to get high heat shoes. Because as much as people, when we say about like people flexing on other people, when you're flexing on someone, you do kind of feel good. Do you know what I mean? Like that, you're not just doing it because you're like, I'm better than you. A lot of the time, if you're rocking something that's really high heat, you walk with a different kind of swag down the street, right? So that it might just be that for them. It might just be that, like, yeah, they know it's fake, but no one else knows it's fake, so they can kind of walk with a bit of confidence. I don't know. I wouldn't walk with that confidence, but I'm sure someone else would. So,
nah, G, not in the circles that I ran in, because ultimately. Like, and it might be the same for you, Matt. But a lot of my friends, or pretty much all of them, they make shoe contact before they make eye contact, man.
Oh yeah,
They're looking at your kicks
100%.
before they look at anything else.
Yeah.
Like, and they're scanning the whole thing, and it's like, I just don't have the bandwidth to defend shoes at the ripe old age that I am.
Yeah.
I don't have it. Like, I need peace.
Yeah.
I need to leave my life in peace. I need to walk out and feel confident that the shoes that are on my feet are actually
I get it.
100% legitimate in a sense. But like, moving on to your current day, your modern day,
Right. Yep.
Right. This is what I refer to as the EST of KIC. So this line of questioning is more about your newest, your oldest, your rarest, your most expensive, cheapest, the best.
Right.
This is sort of what you got in your current collection or what you've had over the years, and you're like, do you know what? Yeah, this is what I've currently got. So we get an understanding of where you are currently. So, Matt, could you tell me, in your collection currently, what is the oldest shoe you have?
So oldest shoe is a pair of, I forget whether it's 2012 or 2013, but it's a pair of Air Max 1s. Like I said, 2012, 2013. They're just a pair of GRs. And they're, I think the colorway is like medium olive or something like that. I've had to like get my Instagram up so I can like actually remember what the color is, because every time I post them I end up like having to re-Google what the colorway is for them. But it's like basically an olive Air Max 1, and it's the oldest shoe in my collection because it was the first gift that my girlfriend got me for our 1 year anniversary. So we've been together now since we've been together for a long time. I think it's 11 years in October we've been together. And for our first year anniversary, she got me this pair of Air Max 1s, and I've kept them ever since. Like, the paint's chipping off, like they're beat, but like that will be a pair of shoes that I will keep forever. When the sole falls off, I'll just find a random donor sole and just put it back on, and that will just be in the collection like forever and ever and ever and ever. So that's definitely the oldest. So yeah, about 2012, 2013, something like that.
That's a good vintage on that one, man. That's a good one.
Yeah.
And I think I love Air Max 1s. They really do last.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, wearing the shoe, like it really, really does last. Such a well-made shoe, such a well-designed shoe, man. Big fan of the Air Max 1. That
shoe as well, like the shoe that I'm talking about now, like specifically, is so on trend as well, because it is that like khaki green Air Max 1, and the shoe
that earth Tony. I just saw a picture of it.
It's all green. It's got like a leather like mud guard, and then the rest of it is kind of like mesh and like this felty kind of like suede, but the sole is cream. It's got like purple paint speckles. Like the outsole's got a little bit of purple hits on there. So like it came with green laces. Like if anyone listens to the Doubled Up podcast, you know that basically my sneaker guilty pleasure is to throw cream laces in everything. So of course I threw some cream laces in there. They look great. Like right now for a 12-year-old or a shoe from 10 years ago, they're like so on trend now. And that's the thing with Air Max 1s, is they'll always come back around.
That shoe is so hard.
Yeah.
That shoe is actually fantastic. Yeah, no, it's really, really, really good. No, big fan of that shoe, man. Big fan of that. Because when I Googled it, so 2 shoes came up, and the first one is a bit more earth tony.
Right.
And now that you've described it, I've seen exactly what you're talking about. Was it a woman's shoe? Hi there. So nice to see you. Sorry to interrupt the pod. I'll be literally 30 seconds. I just wanted to say thank you for being here. And also, if you enjoy the pod, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. It really does help. Also, if you're listening on an audio platform, feel free to give us a review, whether it be positive or negative. Just leave a review. We really, really appreciate it. Also, feel free to listen to our old episodes. And if you ever want to get in contact, if you want to let me know what you're thinking, feeling, or whatever, holler at me. My name is PROZECH. PROZECH on all social media. Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm enjoying TikTok at the moment. So feel free to holler at me. I will always holler back. And with all that being said, I'll let you get back to the pod. Toodles.
It might be. I don't know. It could be. I mean, it looks a bit womansy. So
yeah, because it's coming. it's coming up saying that it's a women's shoe, and that's
Sure,
actually
why
quite
not?
interesting and something maybe we
I
can
don't know.
have a chat about that as well. We can have a chat
I
about that
think
as well
I think at the time I got
because
it from Office. I think like it was again anniversary was coming up. My girlfriend said I want to buy you a pair of shoes. I was like, cool, great. I think I just went into like at that time we other than JD we had an Office and a shoe. So I think I just walked in there and was like, yep, that will do. But then again, I think Office even now like you don't really know what's the men's stuff and what's the women's stuff. So I'm a UK 9.
this is
I
it.
can fit both. It's fine.
But yeah, what I was gonna say first and foremost, listening to the podcast a couple of days ago, I heard that because as an avid listener and a fan of
Oh mate.
the Doubled Up podcast, and I implore that everybody should go and make sure you download the Doubled Up podcast. Very very good stuff. I had submitted a listener question
Yeah.
via Instagram, and it was picked up.
Yep.
Um,
Thank you for that.
and no worries at all, because it was a question that I genuinely wanted to actually get the answer to, and it was derived from a conversation from Scott as
Yeah.
well. So I was chatting to Scott on. So I'll give you the backstory of how it happened. So there was one day on Instagram I threw up on. I think Footlock had put up a thing on Twitter or something like, shout us with your most like outlandish sneaker takes.
Right.
Right. So I was like, I'll have a bit of that. So I put that on my story and I just
Right.
wanted to see what people were saying. And one of my friends was like, basically, I think it was Bolly the Bear, but I think he was basically saying, from the Stockroom podcast as well, so shout them guys out. I think he was basically saying something along the lines of, if it's a woman's only shoe, it should be left for women. And if it's a man only shoe, it's a man. Like something along those
Right.
lines.
Okay.
And then I responded to him saying, there's no gender when it comes to kicks.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's
100%.
literally no gender. And I think Scott basically echoed similar, sort of lamenting the fact that there were certain shoes that were just not made in a big enough size and blah blah blah. And then I was like, you know what? Considering like my timeline, I suppose similar to yours, probably full up with all of this woke stuff and they and he and she and them and all of this stuff. Bro, and then Nike are the ones maintaining women's only this and women's only that. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Not that it really affects me, but maybe the question needs to be asked. Like in 2023, so in 2023, right, with all this woke culture, right, is it right for Nike to still be putting out kicks and saying this is women's only and this is not? Surely it's some form of segregation or whatever you want to call it. And obviously, guys, if you want to sort of hear in full everything that was said, obviously feel free to jump over onto the Doubled Up podcast and you can hear what the guys said. But like, do you want to give me a little bit of an abridged version of what you guys were sort of where you landed on that?
First of all, you're way better at marketing our podcast than I am, so thank you very much for that. And second, so
come on, mate.
Basically, long story short, we kind of agreed with everything that you've just said there. Like, it doesn't make any sense that we're having men's and women's shoes, especially when like you see across all sorts of social media the idea that we're trying to empower men and women to do absolutely everything. Like, I'm as well as into shoes, I'm big into my fitness, and I see a lot on Instagram of like women getting into powerlifting and things like this, and it's like we're trying to encourage men and women to do all sorts of other activities. Why are we segregating or kind of putting into pigeonholes, this is a man's shoe, this is a woman's shoe? And like I think we said on the podcast, it's not like this is back in the day where every man's shoe is white, black or blue and every women's shoe is pink or purple or has glitter on it. Like shoes just look like shoes now, and it's where style as well is so close. Like it's no longer like men wear jeans and women wear dresses. Do you know what I mean? Like the style is so close that it doesn't make any sense to say this is a women's shoe and this is a men's shoe. All we should have is larger size runs or smaller size runs, and that's really all we should kind of have.
And I think the question then becomes a bit more of a business focused question. It kind of switches to, is there a business reason? Is there statistics? Is there something driving the business to suggest that if I mention the fact that this is a woman's only shoe, is it guaranteed to sell? Is it going to sell out, or is there less likelihood of things being left, so to speak? If I make less in larger sizes, is it guaranteed it's going to sell out? Because like this is a point that you raised, I think, and something that I think it was very, very cool. When you're going to the sales, because there's sales happening now, when you're watching the sales, more often than not, it's the really small sizes, right, and the really, really big sizes that you're seeing, right? So there's a disconnect somewhere. It's like too many of these really, really small sizes are being made for whatever reason, and too many of these really big. And when I say really big, I'm talking 13, 14 and stuff, right? And when I say small, I mean 3.5, 4.5, that sort of thing, right? Everything else in the middle is being sort of lapped up. Yeah, being lapped up with glee. But all of these extremes are really, and is it just an exercise in them trying to work out, okay, what are our limits and what are the tolerances on those ends, and they're just slowly trying to work in, or is it just a matter of they're just like, is it just a matter of, okay, these really big ones, like I would just like wasting material on these massive ones, and we're saving so much money on these little ones. Let's just balance it off in that way or whatever.
I have no idea about the decision making, but I do think that it's something that brands need to work on a little bit better. And I'm sure over the years it will. Like, we're in such an unprecedented time right now where shoes are such they're in such high demand that brands are probably having to react in a way that they maybe haven't had to react in the past, right? So I think that it will just take a little bit of time for brands to understand the buying trends a little bit better and things like this. Again, I'm saying this confidently as if like I have no idea about business, so I might be talking absolute rubbish right now. But like, when you look, we do something on the podcast every single week called Steal of the Week, and this really started coming about as of last year, where me and Scott started having less and less money to spend on shoes, cost of living crisis going up, so we want to shine every single week the fact that there are shoes out there in the sales that you can buy cheap and still have a really, really good collection. And it's so hard because we always want to try and, like, one of the things that we say, we take it in turns every week. You can pick any shoe in the world that you like, but the stipulation has to be it has to have a decent size run, because there's no point of me saying, oh, this Air Max 1 is on the End website for a really, really good price. You can buy it if you're a size 2.5. Like, there's no point of us advertising that, because the majority of our listeners are probably in that like hotspot, sweet spot size range. So I do think that brands need to start understanding, like, now you hit the sales and you will find endless women's only Air Max 1s. Like, why are there so many? Just make less. We all are in a community right now where we understand that sometimes you take losses and sometimes you get pairs. Like, if there were less shoes and some people missed out on a few, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but you'd hit that sweet spot where brands would be able to do the best possible size run on every release. And I think that's more important than making these shoes available to everyone. Some people might like that, some people might not like that take. But for me, I just think, wouldn't it be better if every single shoe was a size 2 to a size 15? But those extreme sizes are a little bit harder to get, but you know that you've got a chance on the next one. And that's the thing. Like, that's my take on it.
No, I think you're absolutely right, man. I think you're absolutely right. I think it's obviously, I'm sure there's a lot of thought that probably goes into it.
Yeah.
Or no thought. I
think sometimes there's a fine line, I think, with brands. Like, sometimes too much thought can be no thought. Yeah.
And you can end up right back where you started, sort of thing. But we'll see where that goes as we move on. Because even just before we started the podcast, I looked on the sneakers app and I could see the Big Bubble was still on there, and I was like, Big Bubble's still available for sale, and I'm like, what's that? Look on there, and it's 3.5 and 2, and I'm like, oh, okay, I get you, I get you. So yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, let's mosey on. What was the newest pair of shoes you've most recently picked up?
Right, are we talking like the newest shoe I've picked up, as in like newest to date, or just the most recent pair that's come through the door?
Oh, newest. Oh, that's a great question. So newest to date. So okay, let's go newest. Let's go
newest release.
The one that's entered your home.
Oh, okay. So I'll answer both anyway.
Yeah, let's go newest in the house. Yeah, why not?
So why not?
The
newest pair that I like, the most recent pickup that I've had is an older shoe, and that's the only reason why I asked the question, because the recent shoe that I bought is the size exclusive Air Max 180 from, I think it was like 2018. It was the dusk colorway, the one that is all green, black hits on there, a bit of purple, comes with purple laces, red laces, hairy suede. Absolutely love it. I got into 180s a couple of
You're
years.
big on 180s, man.
I love a 180. I love a
You're a
180.
180.
But
You're
I
a
only got
180
onto him a
guy.
couple of years
I
ago.
remember hearing
Honestly, only got onto him a couple of years ago. Like the thing for me with the 180s is it was only after actually Air Max Day 2021 where the Bacon Air Max 90s re-released, and I was like, they've got more Bacon colorways. I love the 90s so much. Let me have a little look to see about what other colorways they have, and they've got the Bacon Air Max 180. Picked those up, and I was like, oh, now we're in trouble because these are good. And all of a sudden it like opened up Pandora's box. I was like, now I need more 180s, and that pair has been on the radar for a little while, so I was so happy to get them recently.
Solid shoe.
Bought them used. They weren't in the condition that I thought they were in when I first bought them, but I've cleaned them up, and they're a little bit of a workup project where I've had to like get rid of some marks that I didn't see originally. Nice. I've had to remedy the suede a little bit, so it's a little bit nicer, but I'm really, really happy to have the shoe. So that's the most recent pair that's come through the door. Before that, I think my other like most recent release, I guess, is one of the size exclusive. Funnily enough, I love size collabs, but they did size guy, they did a pack of like an Adidas Terrace shoe, the BC Trainer, and they did like a Seaside series late last year. And the idea is that it was 3 shoes, all inspired by different seaside towns. I got 2 pairs. I got the Brighton pair, and I also got the Blackpool pair. So the Blackpool pair is the most recent pair that I've had. It's like yellow with like burgundy stripes and like things like that. So that's probably the most recent release that has come through the door. I haven't bought a lot of shoes recently. I've been spending money on other things. Funnily enough, saying about going to America, I've booked another trip to Florida for December, so I'm paying that off at the minute. So shoes are at the back burner for now.
Nah, same. I've literally just come back from Mexico, so
amazing.
My guys out there, man. But yeah, oh my days, man. When you're paying for these holidays, because the thing is, my daughter's literally, she just turned 2. But when you have kids, obviously kids can travel for free up until the age of 2.
She's hit that age.
Was like, she's about to turn 2. Yeah, she's about to turn 2. Let's get a quick holiday.
Yeah. It's going to cost us more next year. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're thinking about the holiday. You're not thinking about how you're getting there, and having a slightly less than 2-year-old on a 13-hour flight or whatever it was. Yeah, brother, it was a hard task, bruh. Yeah, I'm saying, like, don't know if it was worth. Nah, it was all right. Like, shout out to my baby. Like, she's a good girl. Like, but yeah, 13 hours for anyone's a long time, man. Especially when you can't even articulate yourself. So yeah, and you're still wearing nappies. So yeah, shout out to baby Z. Okay, let's have a quick look and say, okay, what are your rarest pair?
Right, this one, I knew this question was coming, and this is the one that I'm like really struggling with because I don't do rare shoes. Like, this is the thing I said earlier about the fact that, like, for me, I started to understand my interest in shoes, and I'm not one for kind of like hype, super limited numbers type thing. I like to be able to buy shoes that I think look cool, and my taste changes so often that I end up doing purges of the collection and rebuying loads of stuff that I like at the time. Like, I'm awful with changing my mind on things. That's why a lot of pairs don't always stay in the collection for too long. There's a few that stay there, but kind of the fringe pairs that I'm not that interested in end up going. The rarest pair that I probably have, and it's a bit of a cheat code for it, but when we started the podcast, about a year or so in, we got connected with Lorenzo. Obviously, I'm sure anyone listening to this has seen his work. He does the patented color schemes, like all of the kind of faded colors. He's like a colorway designer. And there was a kind of an original news story a few years ago that he'd done shoes for Drake, and or not he'd done shoes for Drake. I think they'd got like his shoes confused with a potential upcoming Drake collab. It was about the time that it was like released that Drake was going to do an Air Force One, and basically like people thought that Lorenzo's shoe was Drake's shoe, and it wasn't. So we got him on the podcast to talk about it. Anyways, we became connected with him and have become really, really good friends. And shout out to Lorenzo, actually. Like, if people will be able to see on his Instagram at the minute, he's doing like a collab with Solomon, and I find it amazing to see like people that we talk to on this podcast and meet on this weird, crazy journey actually doing like successful stuff. So shout out to him. But my rarest pair of shoes, and it is a bit of a cheat code because I got him to dye a pair of Adidas for me. So it's technically kind of like a one of one. Like, he's dyed them, and they'll be like a super sentimental pair in the collection because, I mean, no one can physically have that shoe. So I'd say that's probably the rarest. The base shoe's not rare at all. It was just a GR Adidas ZX. But as soon as you get the dye job on there, it's a one of one. So that has to be the rarest pair.
I respect that. And the thing is with me, when it comes to that question specifically, a lot of people have a similar response to yourself in that. Or I don't have a lot of heat, I don't have a lot of hype or whatever. Like, but my thing is, yeah, there are certain shoes that I have in my collection because I don't have a massive load of heat either. But there are certain shoes in my collection that, in my sort of day-to-day living, going out and doing whatever, I don't see. I just don't see those shoes. And those shoes to me are rare because ultimately, if you never see another living soul wear them, if you never see that shoe in the wild, by definition, it's a rare shoe.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the pair that I said,
regardless of whether it was a GR or not.
Yeah, I suppose, like, in turn, the question that we said about my oldest pair is probably also my rarest pair as well, because it is just a
similar. It is
just
I've never seen that shoe before.
Off-the-shelf GR from 2013. I have physically, even when it came out in 2013, like hanging around Basingstoke, I never saw another person wear that shoe. And of course, there's probably loads made in history, but
I've never seen anyone wear that shoe.
They're thrown out now. Like 10 years later, they are thrown out in a bin. Like, no one. So again, there's two for you.
I like that. I'm all about that, bro. All right. You give me the vibe that I'm saying that you look after your money. You know what I'm saying?
I try.
I'm saying, you know what I'm saying? You give me that vibe. Right? Especially when you're paying down your holiday a year in advance. You give me that vibe. Right. Your most expensive issue.
The most expensive pair that I own. Oh, very good question. I mean, it has to be like a bit of a new balance. Sorry, I keep looking down because I'm having to like scroll through my Instagram to like actually remind myself of like what shoes I own and what shoes I don't, because half the time I forget. I think probably the most expensive pair that I own from like a retail standpoint is probably like some made in US New Balance. I would probably say the Pata New Balance 920s might be the most expensive, because you see like made in UK, made in US, something like that, they're all retailing around £200. Like from like a resale standpoint, I have no idea what the most expensive. It might be another pair of 920s actually. It might be the MTA New Balance 920. I think they were super rare in the UK. They only came out at Dover Street Market. They were like a US exclusive, so they might be. I think they might be reselling quite high, but one of those that it's definitely got to be like a made in, like some sort of made in US or UK New Balance, just because the retail's so high.
Yeah, no, they tend to be quite expensive, but really well made, right?
Yeah, it's always worth it.
A lot of people, anyone that's sort of been watching the podcast will know that over the last few months I've been trying to sort of dip my toe into the New Balance pool. They're doing good things. They're doing really, really good things. And I'm the comfort king. I seek comfort out with all my heart and all my energy. I've got a lot of Yeezys behind me. 350 V2s. I'm saying the Air Max is a really comfortable shoe. Like, I like comfort. Right? I like a simple life. Right. So I recently picked these up. I'll grab them.
Oh, the protection pack, the 2002R. I like that colorway.
2002 are the protection pack. I got them in the black colorway. Right. Well, firstly, what I will say is 100% in terms of quality and in terms of comfort. Tick, my boy.
Oh,
this shoe,
100%.
Like, if this is indicative of New Balance as a brand, sign me up.
Yep.
Like, I'm there. I am there. Like, the quality, the finishing, and the actual comfort on the shoe. In terms of like me not even really understanding why it's so comfortable.
It doesn't really make any sense.
I put my foot in the shoe. Like, I put my foot in the shoe and I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
home. Like, it was that simple. Like, it was fantastic. The only question I have is, in terms of this colorway, which I think is cool, is I wear a lot of black, and I don't know whether it pops enough. I
All
don't
right.
know whether it just melts into the background. But as a throw on, as a shoe, like, and it's not massively expensive. I think it was like 150.
Yep.
Right. As a throw on, as a shoe that I could probably just wear, like, just grab and just go with, like, and one that's super comfortable. Very cool shoe. So
I like
yeah,
that colorway.
protection pack. Yeah, they're doing their bits.
I think with that shoe, it's not
Good
like
shoe.
that shoe is plain enough yet cool enough because of the paneling, like all being a little bit kind of like jagged and a little bit different.
Rough and ready.
It's not quite plain enough where it's like a by the front door shoe, but it's like I'm just going to pop to town, or like I'm just going to go pop a, like get a bite to eat or something. It's that like in between shoe. It's not like special occasion shoe, but it's not like chuck on to take the bins out type shoe. Like, it's a perfect daily wearer that like still's a little like still it's a little bit different, but it's plain enough that it's not like you're not wearing like some weird multicolored shoe that's just going to turn heads.
At least not every day.
Yeah, not every day. Yeah.
All right. Before we drop off of this, there's one that I want to ask you, and that is because you just mentioned it now, your bop to the shops, the one that you just grabbed when you're about to run out the house. What is that shoe?
Pata Reebok Club C. It's
love a Club C.
Honestly, it's I've got the laces perfect to the point where it is a slip-on shoe, and it's the plain white pair. They are beat. They're no longer white. They're a weird kind of browny cream because they're that beat up. But like I wear them every single day without fail. Like, because I live 5 minutes from the shop. If I'm popping out to get lunch, I'll just throw them on. Like I said, take the bins out, whatever. They're on my feet every single day. And they've become more and more progressively beat over the last like year or so, because for a long time of last year, it was the only shoe I can wear. I had a bouldering accident, a climbing accident last year, and broke my leg. And basically my foot, like, I had to have surgery, and my foot swelled up to the point where it was the only shoe I could get on my foot. So for months, it was the only shoe I could wear. And it's just basically become like beat. It's dead, but it's perfect for a slip on. So the laces have become so perfect because I couldn't physically tie my shoelaces because of my broken leg. I had to do it perfect so they're slip on, slip off. So that's my by the door shoes. Just they're a slipper at this point.
Do you know what? And to me, in my opinion, that's a small flex, because a Pata Reebok Club C, that's a beautiful shoe.
Yeah, I love it.
I mean, it's slightly off white, a little bit sale, looks a little bit aged. It's got some green hits on it. It's a beautiful shoe, and
the charity aspect as well.
Thank God that you said that to me.
When they released, there was a charity aspect. So basically, like, they only the shoe itself, originally it was supposed to be only in store, and they only had it in their stores in, I think it was Milan, London, and in Amsterdam. And the idea is that if you bought from those stores, a portion of the proceedings went to a charity supporting the black community in the UK, in Italy, in the Netherlands. So, like, the charity aspect as well, that it was also branded as a shoe that was supposed to never be out of stock. So I love that shoe, but it's just one of those ones now that it's just like by the front door and it's slip on, slip off.
Shout out to the boys at Pata, man, because they really know what they're doing, man. They really know their audience, and they really they put their heart into their kicks, man. Yeah. Really, man. What they did with the Air Max 1s,
amazing.
Waves Monarchs, and like, they really put their heart in their kicks, man. They've been like impressing me over the last couple of years, man. Like, I've started buying their clothes. Like, I'm a big fan. Like, there's a few brands out there like are really, really touching me as well, man. And it's also like, obviously, black owned brands.
Yep.
Obviously, I'm saying, like, been going for a while, and the way that they're able to bounce around between Nike and Reebok and Adidas and all of these various different brands and still produce quality,
just
like
bangers.
every single time.
Like,
it's just every single, they don't miss. No. Like, so yeah, big fan of Pata, man. I'm loving that. That's a big tick for me, man. Right, talk to me about the podcast just briefly. Like, I'm joking now. You can talk a little bit longer if you want.
Oh God, this is like, you know when
you go ahead.
I'm sorry, mate. I'm cutting in. Sorry, that's my bad. Bad etiquette.
No, do your thing, man. Do your thing.
I was just going to say, like, it's one of those things, you know, when someone says, like, now talk to me about yourself. It's one of those things that, like, I've been talking for however long now, and as soon as I have to talk about myself, I'm like, oh God, this is quite cringy. But this is why I said earlier, you're better at promoting our podcast than I am. But I'll try my hardest.
Mate,
so,
if you ever need a hype man, bring me in.
Mate, you're hired. You're the first one on my list, honestly, I swear.
I'm ready, boss.
Yeah, honestly.
I'm ready, boss. All right, bro. But now, in terms, like I've mentioned it earlier, and it's true. Like I really vibe with your podcast.
Thank you.
I think it's just one of those podcasts that, like, it's clear you and Scott, like, have a great relationship. Like, you guys are boys, and you just riff and just, like, go off on tangents and rants. Like, you're the main one for the rants, bro. You got a rant in you every day of the week.
Oh yeah, I'm a hyperactive man child. I'm a hyperactive man child, and I honestly, you like wind me up, and I'll just go, and that's the problem.
Just gone. No, and I love that, man. And it's like, it brings you in and it makes you feel part of the conversation. And the way that you interact with your audience as well is great, man. And yeah, it's just a great podcast. So just talk to me about, like, how it started and what was the idea behind it, and sort of your aims for, I suppose, 2023 in the future.
So we don't have the most orthodox origin story at the Doubled Up podcast. So Doubled Up podcast started in November 2020, towards the end, right in the middle of the second lockdown from the pandemic. And basically, it all started because, and funnily enough, actually, I posted on my Instagram today a picture of a specific shoe, the Adidas ZX 8000 Hanami, which is an all pink suede Adidas ZX. And basically, this podcast all started from this shoe, weirdly. I bought this shoe, and so did Scott. And it was one of those things that I had seen someone I follow on Instagram reshare his post of this shoe. So straight away I thought, this guy likes the same shoes as me. I had a little look on his Instagram, followed him, and we started chatting. And this must have been like summer 2020. And we just started chatting every day about shoes. Every single day, it was just what we like.
You became sneaker friends.
Yeah, basically, honestly.
Sneaker friends.
Honestly, we complete sneaker friends. And it was, but the stupid thing is because at the time, like, my Instagram now is just my name, but at the time I had a private Instagram and then a shoe Instagram, because basically none of my friends liked the fact that I was posting pictures of my shoes. So I was like, screw it, I'll just make a new account. Basically, like, I was SW Sneakers on Instagram. He's Sneaker Teacher. And for probably about 6 months, I had no idea what his name was. Honestly, no idea. Like, I'd be sat there messaging him.
That's hilarious.
I'll be sat there messaging him on Instagram, and my girlfriend would be like, who are you messaging? I'd be like, oh, Sneaker Teacher. And anyways, that carried on for like six months or so, and it got to second lockdown being announced, and I was like, right, I cannot go through another lockdown of just watching Netflix. And like, I'd done Tiger King. Everyone did Tiger King and Last Dance in lockdown. Like, I'd completed it. So
Joe Exotic, man.
Yeah, honestly, I'd completed it. I'd done Netflix, so I was like, right, I need something to entertain me. And I said to Scott, do you want to do a podcast? And he was like, sure, why not? But I had no idea what his name was at the time. So I'd agreed to do this podcast with this guy that I'd known for 6 months on Instagram, never met in person, had no idea what his name was. And the only time I found out his name was, I said, well, we probably should set up a Zoom to chat about it and like think of an idea. And his email address had his name in. And that's the only reason why I was like, oh, his name's Scott. Okay. And he was the same with me. He had no idea what my name was. And we'd agreed to do a podcast with a complete stranger, having known each other for 6 months on Instagram. And this is why I always love and appreciate it so much when people say about like the connection that me and Scott have, because it literally went from complete strangers to like, I was at his wedding last year. Like, I went to his stag do. Like, we're so close now. But that's basically how it started. And it all just started as like, at the time, I didn't think there were a huge amount of UK-based sneaker podcasts. And the ones that were there, I think, focused on a very specific crowd. And as I said, the shoe that got me and Scott together was a very, very niche Adidas running shoe in a middle of a time where Jordans and SBs and Nike Air Maxes were the biggest thing in the world. So for me, we wanted to create a podcast that was tailoring to more the people that are like us. And it has evolved a little bit since. Like now, of course, we do dip in and out of different trends. It's not like this is a super niche podcast. We're now just a general sneaker podcast. But that was the original like business plan. Let's create a podcast that is UK based, that is not just talking about Nikes and Jordans all the time. There's nothing wrong with talking about Nikes and Jordans all the time. It's just we didn't feel like there was anyone that was creating podcasts too much for us. And that's really how it started. And kind of what we're now 2.5 years later, I think, or something stupid like that. And we're 118 episodes in, and basically we do it every single week. And we have a really good dynamic with it. Basically, like Scott is the person that is a little bit more level-headed and a little bit more realistic. I am as I said earlier, the hyperactive man-child that basically like I'll be in the shower and I'll come up with a new game for the podcast, and I'll be like, Scott, we're going to try it this week on the podcast, and he kind of goes, oh, okay, sure, fine. And like I come up with the weird ideas, he makes it a reality basically with the editing and the music, and kind of he helps me to be just this stupid person that comes up with random ideas. But yeah, that's I'm not really selling it much. I am rambling. You said earlier that I always have a rant in me. I feel like I'm going on one now, but that's basically who we are. We're just two idiots that like to talk about shoes every week on the internet, and that's basically what it is. And that's the 100% the vibe that we want to give off with this podcast. It's just two mates talking about something that we're incredibly passionate about, and that's the biggest thing from this podcast.
No, I absolutely love it, man. And I think like one thing that sort of speaks to me in terms of your journey with Scott is the fact that that the shoes brought you together. And I think one of the amazing things about shared passion is, especially one like shoes, is that like it can make two complete strangers decide to start a business together within 6 months. Like that is the power of sneakers, bro. That's the power of kicks. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there are other things that could do similar, but like, I love the idea that two fairly level-headed people, not crazy, would meet somebody online, and think, do you know what, man? This, like, I'm enjoying having these conversations. I'm enjoying speaking about this shared passion so much, man. Let's do something, man. Let's widen this conversation. Let's bring it out to the people, man, and let's potentially create something that people like us would want. So I love it, man. And that Kicks Chronicles, man. We're about connections, man, and that's connections to the culture, man. And the culture is wider than just all the hype kicks, bro. It's more than that, man. It's every shoe, it's every release, it's every GR, and it's the reasons behind it, man. And all of these stories, like, I just love them, bro. I absolutely love them, man. So yeah, people, if that wasn't an advert for you to go and jump on this, I don't know what is, bro. These two, man, sight unseen, started a podcast together, and it's banging, bro. So yeah, honestly, do your thing, man. Do your thing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I was saying, like,
I
was saying before we started recording, like, you honestly, what you do with this podcast as well is absolutely incredible, because you are doing this as a one-man show, getting guests on every single week. And I was saying, like, our podcast has evolved a lot over the years. Like, when we were in the height of lockdown, we could message a number of people. Like, you look at all of our guests, it's so impressive. And the same with yourself as well. You go through all of the episodes and the guest list is mad. We've had some of the coolest people on our podcast. I'm not even going to start naming them because it's just, there's too many to name, and inevitably I'll leave people out. But as soon as we got out of lockdown, all of a sudden it's so much more difficult to book guests. And I have so much respect for you doing this in how everyone's so busy, and you still get guest after guest after guest after guest. Like, we barely get any guests on our podcast. Like, we've got a few good ones coming up. So you asked earlier, what have we got for 2023? We've got some cool guests lined up, so you have to stay tuned for that. But I have mad respect for what you do with this, because it's not an easy job. Anyone that thinks you can just buy a mic and have a podcast, like, it ain't that easy.
Mate, don't get me wrong. Like, none of us out here is Einstein, so I'm saying it's doable, but it ain't easy. It ain't easy. It's definitely doable. So obviously, if there's anyone out there that wants to, and this is something I wanted to talk to you about, because I think your story suggests that, you know what, because there's this big there's a terminology that goes around right now, and I think it's just sort of like jargon of the times, but gatekeeping, right?
Right. Okay.
And it's like the idea that people hold things back and are stopping others from understanding and getting the information to be able to be in order to better themselves. And I think in terms of podcasting as well, like one thing I've noticed is like when I started, when I was sort of getting my ideas together and started thinking about podcasting, the thing that sort of was a hindrance to me, or the thing that was scary to me was like, oh, how much technical information am I going to have to be able to know in order for me to be able to produce a podcast? Right. Am I going to have to understand about audio levels? Am I going to be able to, I'm going to need like a very specific type of mic and camera and all of these different things. And I think the barriers to being able to produce something like what I produce or like what you produce on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis or whatever, however, what have you, I think those difficulties are like, they're so low. Like a lot of it, I'm saying like people can do it now. So if you do have an idea, like I just want to encourage people, because that's something that I'm passionate about. Like a lot of people have amazing ideas, and you might be watching this podcast, you might be listening to my boy here, and he's explaining how it started, and you listen to his podcast and the quality is so good, you watch this podcast and hopefully the quality is decent enough for you to think, you know what, that sounds like it's really, really good. That sounds like it's really, really good. It's not that hard. If you've got an amazing idea, get it cracking, people, man. Get it cracking. Do something, man. Do something. What are you saying on that?
I know I was joking there that you can't just buy a mic and start a podcast, but you can literally just do that. We had Jacques Slade on our podcast ages ago, and
shout out to Jacques Slade. I'm coming, Jacques. I'm coming, bro. Yeah. Trust me.
Yeah, honestly. And he said something on our podcast that has honestly rang so true for me for the entire time, and it's given me so much confidence to do the stupid little games and things like this. Like, if you've listened to our podcast from day one, it's so different to what it is now, and I will constantly introduce new segments, new ideas, and I'll just try it, and if it flops, it flops. If it doesn't, it sticks, right? And he said to me, if there's content that you want to create, there is a chance that someone wants to consume it. And the idea there is that if you think something is good enough to make, don't let these kind of thoughts in your brain of like, oh, what if no one listens? What if no one wants it? Like, what if it's not good enough? Blah, blah, blah. If you think that this is good content, then someone else is also going to think it's good. So just create it. It could be as weird, as niche, as whatever you want. Just do it. And like I said, just try new things. Like just give it a go. I would say that if you are going to start a podcast, like for me, the biggest thing is consistency is key. Don't overcommit. Like if you honestly think that you can do it once a week, why not just try doing it once a month? And you can always build up. Like start with less and build up. Because there's no point you starting a podcast saying, I'm going to post twice a week, every single week. And then all of a sudden it's like, sorry, guys. Just as you start building up a fan base, sorry, guys, work's getting in the way. I now can only do it once a month. Like start with once a month, see if you like it and see if you can get on with it. Then go to fortnightly, then go to weekly. If actually weekly doesn't work for you, go back to fortnightly. But consistency is the key. Like that's the one thing like me and Scott really prided ourselves on for ages, and unfortunately it broke. But when we started the podcast, we did 82 consecutive weeks of never missing a podcast. We always made sure that we had it. And then there was, for whatever reason, like I think we were on holiday or something and we had to miss a week. But like we were so proud of the fact that we went 82 weeks consistently. So that's the big thing. Like just if you think an idea is good, try it. But just be consistent with it. And trust me, like the people that listen will come through, because I find it weird that I get people message us from like New Zealand, Canada, Germany that listen to the podcast, right? And I'm sure you have exactly the same, where like there's people from all over the world that listen. So just give it a try. That's the biggest thing. That's the big takeaway, I'd say.
I love it. Thank you so much for that, bro. Weird and wonderful. Your house is burning down. You can only grab one. What you're grabbing?
Oh, it's the Air Max ones that I was talking about earlier. Like the pair that will always stay in the collection. Like that. There, that's the most treasure shoe in the collection.
We love that. We love that. We love that. And good answer for the missus if she's listening as well.
She never listens to anything I do.
Very
so
close
I'm sure she isn't. I'm sure she isn't. I've had a podcast for 2.5 years and I don't think she's ever listened to an episode. So
I respect it. I respect it.
At least she's honest with me. Like, she doesn't lie about it. She's like, I'm just not going to listen. It's fine. Cool.
That's fine. That's fine. At least I know where I stand. It's all good. Another question, and I know you got a goodie. I call this the desert island kicks.
Oh, okay.
You're stuck on the desert island. You don't know how you got there, right? But you're there with 2 pair of shoes, right? 2 pairs of shoes of your choosing.
Okay.
Right? Now, let your mind run wild. Yeah?
Right.
What 2 pairs of shoes do you have and why?
Oh, I don't have a lot of shoes that are good on a desert island. That's the problem. I've got to try and think of something that I can deal with sand and all sorts. Right. I tell you what, one thing I'm wearing.
Doesn't have to be shoes you own. Any shoe.
Oh, no, I'm going to pick shoes I own because otherwise, like, I can just be like, I'm going to wear 2 different color pairs of flip flops for the rest of my life. Like, I'm living in comfort if it's any shoe that I don't own. Pair of shoes that I own that I'm taking is the Iraq times Adidas ZX 8000 because it is a Gore-Tex shoe and I want to be able to go swimming and hunting for fish to eat, and I'm going to need something a little bit waterproof. So that's going to be one pair. The other pair that I'm going to bring is, because I've mentioned the Air Max 1 so many times, I'm going to put that to one side. I don't want to lose that on a desert island. Has to be my favorite shoe of all time, which is the Patta Air Max 1 Monarch. We were talking about it earlier. Like, if I'm going on a desert island, I'm taking my favorite shoe of all time with me and something a little bit practical. So they'd have to be the 2 pairs.
That's a solid 2. Yeah, the Gore-Tex makes sense. You need something a little bit hard wearing, something that's going to be breathable, something else. You need those things on a desert island, man. People, and the thing is, when I ask this question, man, I love hearing people's answers, man, because some people take it super practical. And some people are like, you know what? I heard one guy once said, he was like, I've obviously got superpowers on this on this desert island, right? I can fly, right? That's the thing.
Fair enough.
And I was like, really? Yeah, okay, why not?
I like the innovation.
The need for shoes becomes slightly less when you can fly, but either way, he gave me 2 pairs.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fine. But yeah, we like that. Before I ask you my last couple of questions, I do want to get your thoughts on 2023, right? A lot of shoes, right? A lot of shoes have dropped. A lot of shoes are dropping. Can you give me your top 3 2023 so far?
Kith, Clark's, Adidas Samba. That's number 1.
High price point, but a very nice shoe.
They're my favourite shoes. I'm not buying any of them. Like, none of these shoes I'm buying, but they're all my favourite shoes that have dropped this year. The Action Bronson New Balance 990 V6. Again, massive shoe for me.
Yeah.
And one that we spoke about this week on the podcast that I've seen some kind of in-hand pictures and maybe I might change my mind, but I'm sticking with it because I said it this week on the podcast, and that is the Piece -1 times Nike Quando 1, the recent white and black. I don't know what it is about that shoe, the one that looks like a bowling shoe, but I love it.
Are you sure that's not pronounced Piece Minnesota? I don't know if I can keep this in the podcast, but I don't want you to look silly.
No,
is the problem.
No.
So I don't know whether you want to pronounce that. Do you want to say that properly?
Yeah, sorry, it's the Piece Minuson. The Piece Minuson times Nike Quando 1. Yeah.
The Piece Minuson. Shout out to Scott. He played himself on the podcast.
That is my proudest podcasting moment right there, because normally I'm the one that makes a fool of myself. So the fact that he did, that will be forever our greatest episode.
We love that. Yeah. We love that. He's not the first to say that, because I've heard people on official content saying it in some weird, because I'm saying, man, Dragon knew what he was doing, bro. He was setting everybody up with that, man. So that's hilarious, man. We like that. Piece -1, guys. Yeah. Just Piece -1. Read the words. It's Piece -1. It's all good. Piece Minuson, we love it. All right, bro, we're going to do some quick fires.
Yeah.
We're going to do some quick fires. Right? With these quick fires, I don't read so fast, so you're in good hands.
Sweet.
Right? But I do require you to answer with your chest. Yeah,
Sweet.
No dilly-dally, bro.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right? No dilly-dally. Okay. We're gonna shoot through these. If I hear any questionable answers, we may double back.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
But yeah,
Prepare for questionable
we're
answers
gonna go
because
straight
I don't
through.
do a lot of thinking in these scenarios, so there will be questionable answers. Yeah,
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. The recording's ready.
yeah.
Yeah. Right. Cool. All right. In 3, 2, 1. Starting off with a banger, as always. Nike or Adidas?
Nike,
New Balance or Adidas?
Adidas.
Can you wear Nike and Adidas together? Yes or no?
No, 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 no.
I like that.
Yeah.
Your favorite Adidas model?
ZX8000,
Favorite Nike model?
Air Max 180.
Do you have a Jordan number? And if so, what is it?
Right. Okay. I know this is quick fire, but do you mean do I own or just my favorite number?
No. Like, is there a yes? What's your favorite number?
One low.
Oh,
Yeah.
like that. YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok?
Instagram,
Spotify or Apple Podcasts?
Spotify.
Love it.
Yeah.
Favorite collaboration?
Pata Air Max 1, the recent the recent lot.
Respect it. Vans or Converse?
Vans. Converse hurt my feet.
Yeah, I love them, but
Yeah.
you're right. Laces or slip-ons?
Laces.
Okay, are you maintaining default laces or are you doing patterns with your laces? And I think I know the answer.
Default laces. I'm not doing patterns.
But you are changing the
Oh,
colors,
100%.
right?
Everything's going to have cream laces. 100%. We're changing every pair to cream laces, but I'm doing standard lacing once they're there.
I respect it. I respect it. Along that same line, are you customizing your shoes or are you just straight factory settings?
Well, I'm going to have to say customizing, aren't I? Because the cream laces, unless they come as standards, we're going cream laces.
I respect that. Retro. This is a new question, but I think I'm interested in your response on this. Retro or innovation?
Retro. Nostalgia always sells.
Love it. Socks or barefoot?
Socks.
Comfort or style?
Oh, comfort, 100%.
Fresh and clean or beaten and battered?
Fresh and clean. That's a hard one, though. Yeah.
Washing machine or hand wash?
Oh, hand wash. Never putting shoes in the washing machine. No.
All right. Lows, mids or highs?
Lows all the time.
Love it. And the last in this section, triple blacks or white on whites?
Oh, white on white, always.
We love that. We love that. Congratulations, my boy.
Pass.
You have completed. Yeah, man.
There we go.
100%, man. You have completed. Yeah. You have completed. Matt Sibley, yeah, you've completed your quick fires, man.
Thank you.
Fairly unscathed, I think. I don't think there was anything crazy in there, to be fair.
That's good.
The one that's been getting me riled up royally most recently is the wearing Adidas and Nike together, man.
Never.
A lot of weird and wonderful responses on that, man. People are just trying to be new age and all hippie like and said, let people do what they want to do, bro.
Oh,
and I'm like,
I'll let people do what they want to do, but I'll respectfully say that they're wrong. Like, that's fine. You can do what you want to do, but no, it's not right.
Like I'm saying, you can do what you want to do, but you're not going to stop me from silently judging you from over here.
No, some people launder money, but it's not right. Like you can do what you want,
of course,
but it's illegal, right?
Do what you want.
Yeah,
laundering money, wearing Adidas.
Basically the same thing, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah. This is it. I knew you were my guy when we started. I knew you were my guy. All right, bro. Like literally the last couple of bits, man. I just want to understand from your perspective the term sneakerhead.
Right.
It gets bandied about. Some people have a sort of a bad relationship with it. Some people love the term and feel part of a community. What does that term mean to you?
I think it's just being passionate about shoes, right? Like I think there's so many different subcultures in shoes that really just having a passion for shoes makes you to a certain degree a sneakerhead, right? Like you can argue everything under the sun that you can't be a sneakerhead if you don't have multiple pairs, you can't be this, you can't be that, but like anyone that has a collection of shoes and is passionate enough that they will kind of showcase that passion, like, I think that makes you a sneakerhead, really.
I respect it. And with all that being said, Matt, are you a sneakerhead?
Sure, why not? Some days, why not? At least once a week when I record a podcast. Yeah, sure.
100%. You know what I would say to that? Mr. Matt Sibley is 100% positively guaranteed Kicks Chronicles certified
Thank you.
sneakerhead,
I
bro.
appreciate that,
100%, bro. 100%.
Thank you.
Like, we've been talking for, and this probably ain't gonna all get in, but we've been talking for about 80 minutes, 100, I would say 1 hour, 20 minutes. Like, felt like a breeze.
Honestly,
Felt
that was
like a
me
minute had gone
refraining as
by.
well. It could have gone on for hours.
And for real, and I know, and I respect that as well, man. But like, yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, without a shadow of a doubt, having you, man. Thank you so much for sort of honouring the invitation and sort of blessing us with your presence, man. People, like, as I said, get involved. Like, but you know, I ain't even gonna step on anyone's toes right now. I'm gonna let you know, Matt. Like, a million people are gonna listen to this and watch this. Like, eventually, right? Eventually, because it ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Right, so,
I don't do anything unless a million people watch it. So that's, it's guaranteed.
Please let the millions and millions of people that are going to watch this / listen to this, let them know what you got going on. Let them know how they can get involved and how they can get in contact.
Doubled Up Podcast, Spotify, Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, basically anywhere you can listen to a podcast apart from YouTube. Find us, social media, at Doubled Up Podcast. Follow my Instagram as well, at Matt_Sibley_. But just get in touch. Listen to the podcast. Let us know what you think. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, still let us know about that. But yeah, basically Doubled Up Podcast everywhere. Oh, and if you like, I'm going to get an extra plug in while I'm talking about myself as well. If you also like basketball, I've got a second podcast, Hoops and Recreation. Find that everywhere as well.
Come on, Hoops and Recreation. And I do like basketball. The playoffs are currently just started. And my Golden State Warriors are currently 2-0 to the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah.
So yeah, I might start listening to the podcast as well, man.
There we go.
But yeah, once again, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Like, obviously, people like, I don't know if we mentioned it during the podcast, but Matt is one half. Scott, the sneaker teacher himself, will be joining us in the next couple of months as well. You know, I'm treating this like Pokemon. I've got to catch them all, bro. Like, it's no joke to me, man. And we've got so much talent. We've got so much, so many people, like, just like immensely talented people within the culture, man. We just need to get these convos going, man, and get the lines of communication popping off, man. This has been your Kicks Chronicles. Our guest this week has been the amazing Matt Sibley from the Doubled Up Podcast. Once again, make sure to go check that out. Make sure to go and support. Light him up.
Honestly.
You get me? People, light him up.
You're too good at this. Like, You're too good at this.
He's not shy. He's not shy. He's not shy. You get me? And while you're at it, maybe give us a like, give us a listen, maybe throw in a little review, do all of that good stuff. And I respect it. I respect it. Yeah, with all of that being said, my people, thank you so much once again, Matt. Myself, PROZECH, you already know what time it is. Kicks Chronicles, Sneakers, Kits and Creps. It's not about collections, it's about connections. And until I see you, man, down the roads, peace.
I really appreciate you inviting us on, because I think I know you were doing your little outro there, so I didn't want to interrupt. But like, you creating platforms for people to talk, it honestly, it's a big thing. So thank you so much for inviting us, because it always a little bit of self gratification, I guess, when someone asks us to do their, like, I've spent the last 2 years asking people to come on our podcast. So when someone reaches out and says, "Hey, do you want to do something with us?" I honestly, it's like, it means so much. So thank you so much for inviting me on.
It's nothing, man.
Like, me and Scott always laugh about the fact that, like, we started a podcast, and I didn't really say it during the episode, but we were nobodies. Like, we had no Instagram followers when we first started this. Like, no one knew our names, no one knew our faces, and we were idiots that started a podcast. So when all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, Matt, would you like to come on a podcast?" And I value what you're talking about. Like, for me, that just blows my mind that an absolute nobody has been invited onto someone else's podcast. So it means a lot. So no, thank you very much. I really appreciate that, mate.
No, man, I respect it. I respect it, man. And yeah, you're not a nobody no more, bro. You're
Somehow.
somebody. You get me? And you're doing your thing. Yeah, somebody somehow. Now you guys are doing your thing. You've been consistent, and I respect it, man. And you're leaders in the space, man. And I look at podcasts like yours and others, and I seek to try and emulate and produce at the same level of quality and the same
No, you smash it,
level
mate.
of
Don't,
consistency, man.
you
Yeah,
smash it.
man. I'll keep it on. Like I'm saying, there needs to be leaders in the game. There needs to be people that have gone ahead, man, and I respect it, man. I pay homage to those that have gone before me, and I respect it, man. I enjoy your podcast. I enjoy your banter. I listen to it weekly, and yeah, man, you man shouted me out last week, man, and that gave me a little bit of a buzz as well, man. I was putting a baby to sleep, and I was putting my daughter to sleep, and I was like, wait, they're gonna say my answer. And the thing is, you faked me out as well. You actually, somebody else asked the same question, and you mentioned their name first, and I was like, "Oh man!"
No, this is why I said like.
And then they said
there wasn't a lot of news that week, so we've done it a couple of weeks ago when Scott had no news, and he was like, "Should we just answer a question?" Because we had the two back to back, I was like, right, okay, this clearly is something that people are asking. So I was like, well, I can't give one a shout out without the other. So like, because the two of you asking, I was like, well, this is clearly more newsworthy than the actual news. So let's just talk about this instead.
Nah, man, it was a nice surprise, bro. It was a nice.
For listening to this episode of Kicks Chronicles, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, rate, review, and all that good stuff. And remember, full video version is available on YouTube, audio versions available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.